All right. Joy to the world. Joy. Yay. Hi, everyone. Welcome to season 3 of Black.Queer.Alive. I'm here with my really good friend, Joy, who I met in Los Angeles a few years ago, actually, right? I think
Yeah.
we met through William. That was fun.
Yep.
I remember us going, when's the first time, like first memory I have you? We went to Irene's party and it was like a rooftop situation at the
Oh
Sandberg.
yeah, at the Ace.
Yeah. I
It
remember
was
that.
at the Ace. We had a good time that day.
Yeah, I miss those times.
It feels like it was eons ago at this point.
Hmm. Hmm.
Time definitely moved differently this year.
Yeah, I feel like I've been running like a hamster, just running in the same spot, and then next thing you know, it's December.
Basically, yeah.
Anyways, let's get to it. I'm so excited for this interview because so far I've interviewed people who I absolutely do not know for this season. So you're like
Okay.
only one of the few interviews in this season where I'm like I have some, some type of history, some type of, pre-connection. So I'm
Yeah.
excited, but I'm excited though to hear your answers to these questions. So you
I'm
ready?
really excited to be here.
Yay.
I'm super stoked. I'm super stoked.
Nice. All right, let's jump into it.
Okay.
Um, I said your name's Joy, but full name, age, and what are you passionate about?
Oof. Okay. I'm like, we already get into it.
Like, boom. Jump right
My
in.
name, I'm Joy Purvy. I use she, her pronouns. Um, I'm 32 years old, and I'm passionate about happiness, which
Mm.
is really, not a pun on purpose on my name at all, but I'm I'm really passionate about happiness and what that actually means because
Mhm.
it's different for everybody.
How long would you say you've been passionate? Like, when has that been a thing for you? When did that start? When did that begin for you?
It's kind of always been there. Like growing up, there's always been this pressure for me to like, live up to my namesake, and
Mhm.
being like a moody teen, I definitely was like resentful for it, like resentful of it for a while. I was like, it's like a lot of pressure because I don't feel this way all the time.
Mhm.
But it's just always kind of like happiness has always just like been a part of like my like, I don't know, like essence of as a person.
Mhm.
So I mean, it took a long time to really figure out what that meant and how it genuinely applies to who I am. But I think I'm starting to figure it out.
Would you say you're happy because you recently moved from Los Angeles? Would you
Yeah.
say you're happy now that you've moved, or is this like a continuum of expressing them?
I'm happy here in yes, I am. Like I'm happy here. I like really think about it. Like I love Los Angeles so much. I lived there for almost 20 years. Like I became an adult in LA. But I'm so much happier here because there's just space, like I can like kind of breathe a little bit and there's like not the same pressure that you have in LA here.
For
And
sure.
so I really get to like I get to express myself in different ways here that I like genuinely didn't have time to do in LA because
LA's
I'm
home.
struggling to pay my struggling to pay my rent because that shit's expensive. Like it's definitely different and I'm definitely still getting my sea legs here.
Mhm.
It's different. I've only been here for about 2 months.
Mhm.
So it's still very, very, very fresh.
You seem fuller. What, like my
I've
interpretation of what I've seen and just talking to you now, you seem fuller. Um,
That makes me so happy to hear.
Okay. I was like, I don't know how to say this.
Yeah, it's true. Like I get to, I like moving here allowed me to step into a level of authenticity with myself that I wasn't able to achieve in LA.
Mhm, mhm.
And that's what's been like really cool and really important. And this is just a beautiful ass city. Like I forgot about trees.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like instead of having to drive like 2 hours out of the city to go see like a big tree, you're like, wow. And it's just like it's really beautiful here. And there's really something magical about the South.
Nice, nice. Let's pivot a little bit. My understanding is that you've been, or that you are a punk or alternative artist. You play like,
Yes.
I think you play the guitar. Am I correct?
Yeah, I play guitar and bass.
Okay. Tell me how long you've been doing that, and where are you right now with your creativity in that realm?
Yeah. I mean, I started getting into punk music and stuff when I was like, I don't know, like 14. Sorry, my cat is here. Since I was about 14, I was living in Oregon, and I was like one of 5 Black people that are up there anyway. And and it just, there was something, I don't know, like very like welcoming, and just like the community aspect of like what punk rock kind of like was to me, was something that like it felt special to me. It felt like it allowed me to, honestly, punk rock allowed me to explore my queerness in a lot of ways that I wasn't exposed to growing up, and there's kind of like there's this come as you are, like nobody gives a fuck about like all right, like you're gay, whatever, like don't, like that's
It's not
unimportant,
pain. Yeah.
yeah, or like not unimportant, that was a poor way to word it, but
Like
it's like
that
it's
expression
not
isn't held to like these standards of like performativity.
exactly. And yeah, it's always just like been a part of who I was growing up. And then shit, like in the end of 2014, me and my best friend, like we started a band together, and then we played regularly for a couple years, until our guitarist, she went to grad school in England, and then things kind of just like changed. And like and so I haven't like been actively playing in the band in some like a few years now, but now that I've moved, um I have like time again, and like I get to like explore, and I have my bass here, and I have my guitar, and I kind of just get to like one woman band it.
Okay.
Like I bought myself a keyboard for Christmas. Like so it's really like it's about to get popping, and I'm really, really excited. And who's to say what's going to come out? It might be some like dope punk shit, or it might not. I might try to do something completely different. But punk and DIY is always like in my heart.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I've always been, I wouldn't consider myself a punk, but I've always ran with the punks. Like I'm
Yeah.
a punk affiliate, a punk associate.
Yeah.
It's something about the culture, especially of Black punks. It's just so it you don't get as raw as that. You don't get as guttural and like to the shit as that. So I appreciate
Yep.
that. Yeah, I appreciate it. Let's pivot a little bit. You said your pronouns are she, her, but what's your gender expression and how do you sexually identify?
My gender expression, I guess it would be more along the lines of like hard femme.
Mhm.
Like I definitely am not like the femmiest femme like out there. Like I don't even have makeup brushes right now. I did my makeup. I did my little makeup with my fingers. Like
I love
I
that.
just been like because like I throw all my shit away when I moved. So and I like grew up like skating, and I played a hell, like I was always a tomboy growing up. Um So I definitely like, I'm not super like high femme, but I guess yeah, like kind of on
I
the
like
hard
that
hard
hard
side
thing.
of the
Yeah. I love
yeah. Um, and I sexually identify as pansexual, fluid, I guess. Like there's no, I don't know. If I vibe with you and you're what's inside of you, then it is what it is.
What's been your experience? Because I'm also, I mean, I always say I'm bisexual, but I mean, like like the label is bisexual, but like the practice is pansexual. Like for me,
Right. Yeah.
um, what's been your experience of dating? Like a lesbian who doesn't necessarily understand pansexuality, or like a cis man who doesn't necessarily understand pansexuality. What's
Uh,
been the experience for you?
my experience, like honestly, like I dated lots of cis men,
Hmm.
like a lot. Like they definitely like were not all straight, like, but most of them weren't straight. Um, but a lot of like the straight ones always like hypersexualized my identity, right? Because they're like, oh, and I was just like, that's when I'm like, okay, bye, like that's enough.
Yeah.
Um, I'm gonna be real. I don't have any dating experience with lesbians because like it just never happened. It
Okay.
wasn't ever a thing that like I that I purposely didn't seek out or whatever. It just never happened.
Okay.
Um, but I mean, it is what it is. My dating experiences though, like being well, first of all, with cis men, they almost never ask you.
What your how do you
Like,
sexually identify?
yeah,
Yeah.
I think I've had maybe of all the cis men that I've ever like and been involved with, maybe two of them have ever thought to ask me how I identified.
Mhm.
Because they always just assume that you're just straight.
Yeah, they make
Unless
the assumption that well, for me, it's always you're either some people just think I'm a lesbian, like full out, and I'm just like,
yeah.
don't do that either. Um, so that's a thing too, like where it goes either or, whether it's like they assume you're straight or they assume like you're a complete dyke.
And then they just don't fuck with you at all. And you're just like, oh well. And honestly, that's just a blessing in disguise because
Mhm.
usually like cis men they don't deserve it. So
True, true, true.
like shout out to every dude that's ever curved me. Thank you. You did me a favor.
Right, best thing I never had.
Right?
Yeah. Yes, yeah, fuck that energy is a bit much for
It's
me.
tired.
And
Yeah.
it is. Where do you find home? And since you've been all over the place, right? Like what's
Yeah.
home for you?
Home for me is where I can just be myself, whether that's been on the dance floor, whether that's been, having dinner with my friends, or just like, just chilling at home and like annoying the shit out of my partner because I know how to do that well. Like I'm always just bullshitting. But like home to me, and it's interesting because I don't have a hometown, right? Like I've moved around since I was old enough to get on a plane. Like we moved from Philly to Korea when I was 3 months old.
Mhm.
So that always has been something that's like been on my mind a lot, like ever since I was a kid. Like what is home? Like where is home? Like this is just the place I keep my stuff. Like my dad walked up to us when I was 15 and was like, we're moving to LA in 3 weeks.
That was it.
Like he was like, I got a job in LA, we're going. And it's just like
Were you
that, like
typical military folks, or it's just that was the nature of like how
um
folks were?
yeah, like my dad is in the shoe industry.
Okay.
So he worked for Reebok for a long time and then Adidas and, you know, he was at Vans for a long time and like was the president of AMWA. So like we all like whenever he got like a new job, it was when we had to go because if like every headquarters is based in a different city, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So that was always a thing, and so I had to figure out that home was like here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I definitely looked for home in people and like bad situations and like I definitely was like looking for what home was in a very like in a very just kind of like coming from a place of just like not knowing
Mm-hmm.
and just like in this like kind of like floundering kind of place where it like all I had to really do is just slow down and turn it inward.
Mm-hmm.
And that took a lot to get there, you know.
How did that
Lots.
facilitate? That's wow. It's. I think that's an interesting answer. I mean, I feel like the I don't know. I try not to. I always try not to gauge people's like responses. I always like I like every response, but I think the common response to that question is yeah, like myself, like wherever I am, that's where home is. But my response to your answer is how did that facilitate like your understanding on how to hold on to relationships, like because you moved so much, what were friendships like, relationships like how did that add to your queerness, that constant being in constant movement?
Um, honestly, being extremely logged in to the internet
Okay.
since, since like 2002
Okay.
or no, or like I was yeah, maybe like 99 if we're
Mhm.
going to be real about it. Like just being logged the fuck in and luckily like you know, I had access to like Zanga and like MySpace and like, you know, was able to keep in touch with like my friends far away,
Yeah.
like on the internet. And just being on the internet at like 11 years old,
Mhm.
like 11, 12, like you were gonna see the internet. Like, and that was like the Wild West back then. Like,
It was well,
yeah,
and shit. That used to be something else. But okay, the internet is what did it for you.
yeah. And just like being in the chat rooms and like talking to like, you know, probably scary people that were like being chill in that little square. Um, but that also, I mean, I had a lot of exposure to a lot of things that like I definitely wouldn't have had if it weren't for that.
Mhm. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. What are you searching for? That question, that one hits differently.
Yeah, it does. Shit. I'm just I'm just searching for a way to just make everything like I'm searching for a way to make everything in our community better.
Okay.
If that's and if that's like fucking oh shit, my music. Listening to like who said sorry, Taking Back Sunday in the back room and the background. Anyway.
I love Back Sunday.
Yeah.
One of my favorite bands.
Um um shit, I lost my train of thought. So yeah, searching for a way to make everything in our community better. And if that's like fucking sharing a meme that makes the good sis laugh that when they're having a bad day or like community work, like it really varies. But like I fully believe that there is something better coming to us.
Wow.
I've wholeheartedly believe in our community
Mhm.
and I love us so much.
Mhm.
And I'm just searching for, yeah, a way to what we deserve to what we deserve.
Mhm. Like uplift.
And that's an uplift, and that's to be alive and happy in a way that in however that matters to you. We all deserve it. Like there's no person out there that does not deserve that. That's the bare minimum.
Mm-hmm.
It truly like happiness and being alive is the bare minimum, and people treat us like we're reaching for the stars for that. Mm-hmm. Like this is unattainable. Like it doesn't make any sense for us to like fucking want that.
Or like, how dare you be so comfortable in your identity and your expression? How dare? Yeah.
Like, man, come on. Like it's literally what it's our birthright. Mm-hmm.
Speaking of just community, I think a lot of people are always obsessed with representation, like how we get represented in the media. Where do you see yourself, or where do you see our community being represented? And this could be like in television and movies, in anything.
I think, like, well, I see it's hard because it's very rarely accurate.
Yeah.
It's very rarely accurate. And when we are represented, it's in a light of tragedy. Mm-hmm. You know, like when like it's tiring because almost every single time we see ourselves, it's in a shitty way. Mm-hmm. Like whether it's a hashtag or like people talking shit or like making a joke out of us, especially Black women. Mm-hmm. Like you can be funny without throwing on a wig and pretending you are us. I mean, if you can't, then you're not funny.
You're actually one of the most vocal people about that, about cis gay men, or just cis black gay men, or just cis Black men, constantly replicating like Black women in these like comedic videos that they do. You're
it's crazy to me. Like, if you want to put on a wig and a skirt, then just do it.
Put on a wig, yeah.
Just put on a wig and leave us alone.
Yeah.
You don't have to do all of that. You don't have to make a mockery out of us to get laughs so you feel comfortable with that little lipstick and your wig on. Just put it on and blend the lace and shut up.
Right.
Like that's all you have to do. Because if that's the way you have to get laughs, then you're not actually funny. Mm-hmm. Sorry about it.
Yeah, and like, it's that's so played out at this point. I mean, Tyler Perry is a billionaire because of this mocking Black womanhood.
Especially like, and then adding to like the mammification mm-hmm. of Black women as well. And it's just like, I'm tired of it. And I also feel like that's another reason why like your art is so important. And like, you truly, and like the shit that I do, like there's so much more to us than tragedy. Mm-hmm. There's so much more to us than, you know, somebody bobbing their little head around and like
right.
It's enough. It's enough.
It's exhausting. And
it is.
Yeah. Who is there anyone who you feel connected to, like, you know, a Black femme or a Black artist who you're like, you know what, that person does it right. I like that.
I've been in such like a cave lately. There's this band and I'm obsessed with them. They're so cute. They're really young. They're like 20. Mm-hmm. Meet Me at the Altar is this like the Black girl lead. They're like, yeah, Meet Me at the Altar. This really, really, really good pop punk band that is blowing the fuck up right now. And I can't listen to them without crying.
What? Okay.
Literally, they're so good. Like, they're everything that I needed when I was 15. Mm-hmm. You know, like, and just like as an old grumpy punk, like, it also like hits different because I'm like, oh, the kids are all right.
They're gonna be okay.
The
Yeah.
kids are gonna be okay. And like, and I didn't go through all the bullshit that I went through as a young punk growing up for nothing. Because shit, like, not only like growing up, in majority white suburbs my whole life, I'm used to being the only person that looks like me in the room, and having them there and like see and just watching them flourish is just so fucking cool to me. And I'm sure they're mad young. I'm sure they're gonna make, like, we all make mistakes, we all fuck up, nobody's perfect. And that's another reason why I try not to really put anybody on a pedestal anymore. Because like, yeah, there are people out there that I'm like, oh, that's tight, like, I agree. But it's somebody is always going to say or do something that's going to disappoint you. Like, everybody's doing their best, and as long as everybody is putting forth the effort and are willing to shut up and listen when they do fuck up, and actually do the things to change and do better, that's all. I'll fuck with you forever over that. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it gives space for humanity and
yes.
humor, basically.
And celebrity culture does not give space for humanity at all.
It doesn't. It deifies these people, turns them into archetypes that they could never live up to. For sure. I was listening to your response. I'm gonna check that band out, Meet Me at the Altar. But when I was like, how old was I? Yeah, like when I was 16, 17, my Black girl artist like that I fucked with was Shingai Shinoa from the Noisettes. I don't know. And she was that. She was just so poetic, and she was so like and grungy and pop and like cute, and but she, it was like it was seeing something I had never really experienced before, like outside of the typical tropes that we always get to see. So I'm gonna check them out, and also I'm gonna listen to the Noisettes again because that made my heart. Yeah. When do you feel safe?
Oh, that's a new feeling to me.
Whoa. Okay, how recent? How recently new?
Ironically, within this past year.
Okay.
And I mean, ironically, because of COVID, and nobody feels safe like that.
This year, not to feel safe.
Yeah, like, but I mean, as we all did, or if you was at the house, if you was actually doing what you supposed to be doing, like if you was actually doing what you supposed to be doing, and you was in the house, we had a lot of time to really just sit with ourselves. And this past year, I mean, first of all, when COVID popped off and my job like closed down, I was like, well, I was living in LA with no car. So where the hell am I going? I straight up did not leave. Like, I went outside, to like mailbox or like get some sun on my balcony, like whatever. But I didn't go anywhere for 3 months.
Wow.
So I was just in the crib, like just figuring it out, unpacking a lot of my shit. And like, thankfully I was like still like having therapy online every week. So it was just like inside, like inner work all day, every day. You know what I mean? Like, it's the beginning of the quarantine was very, very, very intense for me emotionally. And that's when I really started to feel safe, because I was really beginning to like feel safe with myself. Because when you're working 2 jobs and you got all this other shit and you're just like distracting yourself constantly, like I finally am at this point that I feel like safe in my body and like in my mind.
Wow, that's powerful. It's almost as if you went into like a deep meditative state, like, or how either monks or Buddhists go into like these caves and they like sit in the dark with themselves. They don't eat, they don't think too much, they're just meditative, and they come out, they're like, I've been enlightened.
Yeah.
It's funny, you're the third Black femme uh that I've talked to this week who said, hey, for the first like 3 or 4 months of the quarantine, I was like, I don't want to say catatonic, but
Like
in
in a cocoon.
in a cocoon or incubating.
Like it felt like the first 3 months of quarantine was like when like my body dissolved into goo in my like
Mhm.
in my cocoon. And then like from there, and I'm like from there up until like probably when I left LA was me like coming out of the cocoon and like drying my wings off. And
Mhm.
now I'm like, oh, it's time to act. Now it's time to go. And now it's time to like, okay, we made it to the next level. Now it's time to put all of the things that you've been working for and all of the things that you've been praying about and manifesting and like all of that. Now it's time to actually do it.
That feels powerful. That makes me happy too for you.
Thank you.
For you. All right. Um, Tell me about the first memory of you being Black. Were you like, damn, I'm Black. This is it. This is the moment.
I was in kindergarten and some little white kid called me a nigga. Hard R, obviously. It's
Mhm.
Massachusetts. So shout
How
out to
did you
shout
respond?
out. I remember telling my teacher, who was also a white person, and I got reprimanded for being super upset because my parent, like I knew what that word meant at that age. My dad says nigga more than anybody I've ever known in my life. Like my parents they're from Philly, like from the 70s, like what, I knew what it was. And I knew that no white person should be calling me that
Right.
at that age, very young. Cause I mean, my parents had to have like the your Black person talk with me very little. So I remember the the lack of like care that I received in that moment. I was like,
Mhm.
damn, like,
Did you tell your parents?
yeah.
How'd they respond?
Um, my parents were just like, not like shit happens, but kind of like, you know, this shit happens low key, like it's gonna. And they had my back about it. They didn't, because we were in Massachusetts, in like not even in Boston. We were like out, like
Mhm.
in the boonies, like in Massachusetts. And so like, my mom wasn't gonna go like tear the school up. Like it was definitely like one of those moments where my parents were like,
Gotta process, gotta deal, gotta move on. Damn.
yeah. But then they were like, but if anybody puts their hands on you, then that's a different
That's a
story.
whole other story.
It's a completely different story. Don't ever come in this house saying you got your ass beat. Like,
My mom was the same way. Like if they can
I
come
don't want to hear it.
walk
If
up
you
to
got
us,
your ass kicked, then don't tell me about it. I don't want to hear that shit.
um,
Um, but yeah, like I was made very aware of my Blackness very, very early on, and there were times where where I thought like, well, maybe it's not like that. Maybe if oh, I see all my little white homegirls, they cry every time they get in trouble and they don't get in trouble. Maybe if I shed some tears, it'll work for me. No.
yeah, damn.
Like they're like, there were always like really harsh reminders every time I had tried to think it was something different.
Hmm.
And it's just like, nope.
Damn. Man, that's just ugh. It always most people are like, I was in kindergarten. I was 7 years old. I was two. I was like, fuck, man. Like, and it's usually a response of some white kid saying some stupid shit in the classroom.
Yep.
It's ridiculous.
Or like I remember, I think second grade. It was second grade. I know this was the one that really drove it home for me. I was in second grade, and the gym teacher, she came in during like our health time, and they gave a lecture, I guess, on how to be hygienic so you don't get lice, right? And so they go through the study, like make sure you wash your hair every day or like every other day. And I was like,
you were like, not these kinks, not every day.
I was like, not my freshly greased scalp. Like,
you see these braids, like stop.
Like, I see these beads, like I'm not washing my shits. And I remember one time and it was like during that same time, I remember because they were doing the hair thing, and this girl like walked by me and like touched my head, and she was like, ew, like Joy's hair is greasy, because they just finished talking about how you don't want your hair to get greasy and you need to wash your hair all the time. Joy's dirty, her hair is and I'm like, I was like, oh.
Did you have it in you to fight, or you were just did you just internalize it?
Oh, I didn't get into my first fisticuff until I was 27.
Okay. It's like 4 years ago. Okay. She's 27. I was like, okay, 15, 16, 12, 13.
No, there was one incident that I had that I 100% do not count as a fight, because we didn't fight, she attacked me.
Okay.
Like that, and I was in ninth grade.
Okay.
But I mean, that doesn't count. Like, she literally was like, I'm gonna fight. And I was like, we're on the train. And she was just like, I was like, it doesn't count. But of course, like, and I had to take that as a L, because of course she went back to school. It was like, I'm whip Joy's ass. And I was like, whatever. Like,
you're ready for this. What are you talking about?
It's fine. I hope she's doing good.
I hope she's happy too. Shit. People,
people do shit for all kinds of reasons. So
our black top nemesis, I hope they all right. They about ourselves.
I hope they're all thriving, and whatever that means to them.
That was funny. When's the first time you realized you were queer?
Okay, I was preparing myself for this question.
Okay.
Because I really had to think about it. But I think one of my earliest memories of me being like was the Rex and Effects video.
Rex and Effects, what is that?
All I want to do is a zoom, 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 and a boom, boom. That video,
yeah.
I saw that video. If you go back and rewatch that video,
the girls and shaking the booties and shit,
where they was all just like in their bikinis, like,
yes.
I remember that video and being like,
wow. And it was the girls. You were just like, I want that.
I was like, okay, like,
okay, question.
Because I was super confused, because I was like, I want to be you.
Yes, that was my question.
I also wouldn't mind a smooch.
Okay. Yeah, that was growing up. I wasn't ever sure if I wanted to be the girl, or if I was just like, do I want to be with this girl?
And then I realized it was both.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I like that in a lot of ways. And then I also realized that I was super queer, because most of the dudes that I had crushes on growing up were super effeminate.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
My first, because I loved WWE when I was growing up, which is like flamboyant.
Yes.
And my first crush from wrestling, which I was like it was like around the same time, actually. My first crush was Bret the Hitman Hart. So he wore his like pink, yes, and he had his little long hair and the sunglasses. And I was like,
That.
That's my dude. That I had the sunglasses when I was little. Like that was my dude. That was my dude when I was little. Like, and my, I was into the Backstreet Boys growing up, and AJ, like those little tattoos and his color hair, like, and he was always playing around in dresses and shit. Like,
AJ was the queerest one out of all of them.
and then I was, my favorite band was AFI and Davey Havoc. Like, I had posters of him. Like, I went like boy band crazy over AFI. So
okay, I'm just like, this makes sense. I see it. The effeminate nature of these men. Yes, it makes a lot of sense. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's beautiful. That is very beautiful. Okay, going back to that moment where you're like into all these boy crushes and you're 12 years old or 13, or boy band crushes and stuff like that. What do you want to tell them? What do you want to tell her?
Like, I really, really want to let her know that it's gonna be all right. Mm-hmm. Like, you are such a star. And like when I was 12, like, it was, I don't know, it was just really interesting because, like, you're all hormonal and like trying to do what you can to like fit in and like do what you thought was like the right thing to do, when like all I had to do was just like believe in myself. And I just want to tell that little girl, like, don't worry about what the white people got to say at all. Stop, like, don't worry about the white people, because they just gonna be hating on your shit no matter what you do. So you might as well just do the most.
When did you find like, at what age did you find a Black community where you're like, well, these are my folks, these are my people, I've been around these white people for too long?
Oof. It was after high school. Mm-hmm. I was definitely, and I think honestly, it started really like when I was like old enough to like go to like bars and clubs and shit. Like, I found my community literally on the dance floor. Mm-hmm. And like so growing up, I was never like out, right? Mm-hmm. But I didn't have any straight friends.
Okay. You were like the straight person amongst all the queer folk.
But then would never like say that. Like, I don't ever recall myself ever explicitly telling anyone that I was straight. But I never, it was like Queen Latifah. It was always just like,
ooh, is she?
Like, and she's like, but like, that's literally how it's been for me. And like, so like going to like the queer parties and stuff, like when I was younger, especially like when I was like, or like starting really like going to like the 18 and over clubs, going to like, Clockwork Orange and like Bang and
did you all ever go to the arena?
A couple times. I wasn't there a lot, but I've definitely been there.
Okay.
And then just like, starting to, it was almost like living a double life where I was like really like in going to punk shows and like doing that whole shit, and then like would be shaking ass on the dance floor literally like the next day. And just that's when it changed, because like I was a lot like the kids that I grew, like the Black kids that I grew up with, in like high school and stuff, they didn't give me the wiggle room to like be into punk rock and all of that, and then also like acknowledge that like I'm Black as fuck, like boogity Black. Like I was just, you trying to be white, and so nobody like really gave me the time of day until got my Vans on, because they looked like sneakers came out.
Wearing Vans, you like,
and now everybody's wearing Vans, and they all found out that my dad worked there, so they're like,
I see.
can you give me some shoes?
Right, like, nah, I can't.
But like and the thing is like my parents did a really good job at not letting me become bitter towards Black people for the way I got treated by them in school. Because, you know, I could have easily ended up at Candace Owens or something.
Shit. Okay.
Because I literally was like the only Black kid, and I was hanging out with all these white people. And the Black kids at my school were literally just like, I like low-key bullying me, like for being myself. And I never took it personal. I never took it personal because I was like, you don't know, like, you don't know, you know, like, it's.
I feel that. That's
like,
interesting. Of not being accepted by the community that you really want, but then also the community that you're in, they ain't shit. They still like weird. Man, that's a weird liminal space. What would you want to hear from your 60-year-old self?
Congratulations, everybody leaves you the fuck alone, and you only show up to holidays with gifts for the babies. And then and then, you know, no time to chat, darling, because we have a flight in the morning.
Ooh, I love that.
You know, we're busy.
I love that.
And just
like,
hello, I've got good gifts for the children.
Right here.
No, just that I'm thriving even more and happier than ever and healthy and just like in love with, just as in love with myself as I was at 32.
How do you experience love?
I experience love every day. Every day I wake up and take care. Like every time, you know, every day I wake up and I drink my little coffee and like I brush my little teeth. Like it's to the point for me, like every act of service that I do for myself is out of love. Because even at the end of the day, like I'm so thankful and like appreciative of my partner. So appreciative of them. But I know deep down that if I didn't love myself every single day, I would not have the spoons to love them the way that they deserve to be loved.
That's powerful. That's very powerful. If you could,
and they're the best. They're just the absolute best. I love them so much.
Nice. I'm happy. Man, everybody's getting booed up right now. I'm just like, what the fuck is going on?
You know what time of year it is? And I'm just
it's cup season. I get it. I'm happy for everybody. That's beautiful. If you could change your identity, would you? And I've expanded this question starting in season 2 with, you know, I would want to be a sequoia tree or like a hummingbird or like a Rigel in the universe, you know, like a cluster of stars. Is there anything that you would want to change into?
I would love to switch places with my cat. I think about that a lot. I just look at her when she's just like laying on her back and her belly's all like exposed and she's got her like, she's just like not a fucking care in the world. And I'm like,
oh, yeah.
Like, I wish that was me. Please. Yeah, but I wouldn't change any part of myself for the world. Actually, that's not true. If I could get 3 more inches onto my height, that would be lit.
Just 3 inches?
Just enough to be able to reach the back of the cabinet.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
That's it. But I know God made me 5'2" for a reason, because if I was 5'7", I would be too powerful.
I see. I see. Oh my goodness. I wasn't expecting that one. um, is there anything that I did not ask that you really want to express in this moment? Yeah.
I no, I just am so thankful for this time that we've spent together. And, you know, I got this close to crying. I didn't
Um,
actually do it, and I'm
you
proud of myself.
you had me cracking up the entire time. I was like, cry where? What there ain't no tears?
I really woke up today, like, kind of in my bag, like, just like I was drinking my coffee, like, all pensively, like, looking out the window and shit. And then, like, I was just like, yeah, because I mean, like, my identity is so sacred to me,
Mm,
and it is emotional for me to talk about.
mm.
So I was just like, yeah, I'm gonna be fucking boohooing and shit, but like, it is what it is. Like,
I
I had a really, really lovely time.
thank you, thank you. I think I don't know, these questions, they hit everybody differently. Like someone be like, ooh, searching for, oh, I've been searching,
No.
right. And I'm like, oh, okay, yes. And it's then some people are just like, experience love. What is love? So it's just
Yeah. And then
uh,
it's hard when you're like digitally watching someone cry and you're just like,
I know, but sometimes okay, so there's
yeah,
this thing that's happening. This thing that I'm an empath, so I sometimes I just pick up like everyone's shit, and I'm just like, okay, I gotta cleanse, gotta ground, gotta
right.
mentally prepare myself. So yeah, sometimes I just tap into people differently based off of what they're saying. But for me, it's more of a listening game. It's just like
Yeah.
and then I love to imagine people and hear their stories. It makes it all beautiful. So I'm happy you have me cracking up.
I'm glad.
I'm happy I got to share this time with you.
Definitely. Yay.
All right, I'm gonna stop it right here.
Okay.